Hello, everyone. This is Jeff Kaplan. Happy afternoon. Today, we're going to have a conversation. We're going to sit down and chat. I'm going to talk a little bit about sending your kids off to college, talk a little bit about what we did personally, some personal advice just from a dad's perspective. We have two kids who are one is finished college, one is still in college, but we've gone through it and feel like we've got enough experience to share. But first, I'm going to talk a bit about the legal side of turning 18, having a child who turns 18, who's getting ready to either go off to college or just simply turn 18, because the real issue is hitting that milestone age. So you've spent all those years handling all the issues, medical issues, everything dealing with your children. Now that they're 18, the question is, what do you need to do? What do you need to put in place so that you still have some ability to help them, ability to parent, even though they're off being independent and legally able to handle things on their own. So a lot of these, for those of you who have followed me in the past, I talk a lot about estate planning. So a lot of these are going to sound familiar, but the reality is once you turn 18, you are your own person. The law sees you as an adult. And so just as like the things that would be required in order for people to be able to do things for you as an adult, they're going to be required for your kids. So first we'll talk about the healthcare directives, advanced directives. So when your kids go off to college, there's going to be situations where you're going to need to handle medical information. You're going to need to make decisions. You're going to want information. You're going to want to talk to their doctors. You're going to want to do all those things that you did just the year prior, but now you can't because the doctors, the hospitals, the providers won't talk to you. The law says they can't, so they don't. So in order to make that not an issue, first document is called your healthcare proxy, where you designate a healthcare surrogate, same as it is for an adult. Your child is going to pick someone to have authority once they've lost capacity. These are generally in place to be able to make decisions for them if they're unable to because of some incapacity, some event, something's happened. This will put that mechanism in place so that there aren't any issues. The HIPAA, everyone's heard of that. HIPAA authorization is another key document that you're going to want to have signed and in place and on file. This is what's going to allow you to have access to healthcare information. This applies whether they're competent or otherwise, but it's a necessary tool in order to be able to continue participating in their healthcare and their decisions and those sorts of things. The durable power of attorney, that's another key document to the extent that you want or need to be able to help them with financial decisions, banking issues, signing or reviewing apartment leases, talking to the leasing company. Those in particular, they're not going to talk to you unless you have a power of attorney in place. It's important to be able to handle those things, car registrations, license renewals, all those things that typically happen with ease, without any hiccups, are now new things that have to be dealt with, and you're going to need to have these documents in place. Something called a FERPA authorization. This is related to school in particular. It's the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. And so what it essentially says is that when they turn 18, that they're in charge of everything educational. It gives them full control over who can access their educational records. It prevents parents from reviewing grades, academic performance, disciplinary actions, anything and everything having to do with their education is now locked down unless they fill out one of these forms. And what you're going to find is with any of these forms, what I tend to do is I focus on a state level, I focus on a school level, and I focus on just particular providers. So for example, if the college has its own healthcare proxy form, in addition to having one prepared by us, you want to have one that they use. If there's a particular hospital or medical provider that you know your child's going to use, you should inquire about any forms that they have that are specific to their practice. The more of these you have in place, the less often you're going to run into delays or issues related to reviewing different forms. So duplicate, triplicate, those sorts of things are important, and we try to make sure that those are in place. Same thing with the HIPAA authorization. There are standard forms for that, but hospitals, providers, they all have their own forms. So I would say fill out as many of those as you can. Most of those you can handle on your own. We prepare a generic medical authorization and HIPAA form for you. One of the questions we get is, obviously things happen, decisions are made. Most people don't have these in place. Most kids going off to college probably don't have these authorizations in place. So what happens? How do the normal everyday people deal with issues when their kid gets sick or when something happens? How do they handle it? Well, the reality is sometimes they get lucky and the powers that be will allow them to talk and get information, but more often than not, they're going to be stuck behind the legal requirements. So, with the one exception, the healthcare decisions, there are laws in place, and these are going to vary by state. So, depending on where your kid goes off, you're going to want to make sure you comply with those. But there are laws that say that if there isn't a healthcare surrogate designated, there's no healthcare proxy in place, the law specifies the order in which decisions can be made. So, for your child, typically you're going to start with a spouse, an adult child, then a parent. So at some point, yes, you will likely be given the opportunity to make decisions, to handle those things, but the reality is it could get delayed. There are any number of issues that can come up that would make wishing you had a healthcare proxy in place very important. So keep those in mind. There is nothing statutory in Florida that would help you deal with things that a durable power of attorney would handle, bank account issues, leases, those sorts of things. There is no workaround. You either have it or you don't, and if you don't have it, then you're stuck. So that's probably one of the key documents to make sure you have. And same with the FERPA authorization. That's the educational ones where, I'm not a big helicopter parent type person, but sometimes it's important to have access to that information or be able to make calls on behalf of your child. And you won't be able to do that without that in place. Got my notes here. So beyond those advanced directives and the power of attorney, you've got another document that we've talked a lot about, the Digital Assets Directive, Digital Assets Authorization Form. This, the more, obviously that we are in such a digital world these days. Everything you do is digitized. Everything you want, see, eat, hear is all tied to some digital account online somewhere. And so if the need ever arose where you had to access those accounts, you had to close those accounts, you had to do anything. If you don't have something in place, one, you're not going to have any clue that it exists, and two, you're going to unlikely be able to log in or talk to somebody about it. So we include that as a regular part of these packages. It's more of a direction, set of instructions, checklist to have you include the important accounts to make sure passwords are available, written down, and accessible. Those are all key. They can be available, you can communicate them, but if they're not accessible, if nobody knows where to find them, they're as good as unknown. All right, so some of the examples I've already given. It's hard to. The key is it's hard to predict what issues are going to come up. If we could create documents that address everything, but because we don't know, because it's a lot of it is just the way the wind is blowing that day, you need to have these things in place. For example, if your child needs to go, get sent to the hospital, they're sick. They go to the infirmary and they're sent to the hospital, they've got some stomach bug, they've got something. Uh, Normally, not an issue. You take them to the doctor, you talk to the doctor, everything is done through you. Well, once they hit that 18 mark, it all changes. It may seem like a simple issue, but like I said, most families don't have these in place and typically don't get them in place until there's a crisis. And that's not the ideal time to put them in place. So bank accounts, you know, many of your kids are going to, obviously have their own accounts. They're going to have their own funds, but either your account's tied to theirs or you need access. You need to confirm a direct deposit for tuition. You need to confirm something having to do with them financially. They're going into their second year, getting an apartment, going to be renting. You want to have a discussion with the property manager, talk about their lease. You want to be able to get their accounts set up, the utility accounts, or better yet, you want to help them, you want to guide them, and just be available for them. Well, you can't be available for them if these aren't in place. You can be available to give them advice, but if something happens or if they really need you to step in, that's what these are for. All right, so that part of it, this first part dealing with the legal requirements, it is fairly straightforward. It's not a difficult concept. It's applicable whether your kids are going off to school, whether they're staying at home, whether they're going to learn a trade, who knows what it is. But once they turn 18, to the extent that you want to continue being a part of their lives and continue being able to assist them, these are the things that you've got to have in place. We've created these packages for these situations. They're more concise, they're less comprehensive, but they cover the basic needs. And they're important to put in place now during the summertime before your kids are in school, or even better yet, start planning the year prior. So, like I said, my wife and I, we've got two kids, one who just graduated, one who is recently graduated, going to grad school, and you have to know a little bit about, what's important to us. We are not this is how it was when we went to school, so this is how it's going to be when you go to school type of parents. We've raised our kids to be very independent. We've raised them to ask questions, to be respectful, but to don't just accept, to question things, to be curious. And so we've kind of set the stage for them when they went off. And a lot of this advice is, you have to set them up for success. You start early, ideally start getting them ready. The things that these are not legal issues. These are life lessons from one dad, one parent to another. If we take a step back, first of all, whether you're a single parent or whether you're married, the first step is to get a hobby. You got to get a hobby. It's going to keep you from going crazy. The things that you worry about as a parent with a child at home are going to increase exponentially when you are the parent of a child who no longer lives at home. So it doesn't go away, it just changes. You're still going to parent, you're just parenting differently, but get a hobby. It'll keep you from losing your mind, and if you're married or you have a partner, it'll keep you from, it does wonders for that as well. But the key is to set them up for success. Financial skills, you'd be surprised, or maybe you wouldn't, how few people, when they go off to college, know how to properly manage a checking account, know how to properly handle a credit card. We taught our kids early how to, people don't write checks anymore, but they know how. People use credit cards for all different kinds of reasons, but you don't want to have to be there every step for every decision. You need to give them the power to learn, to make mistakes. They're at a stage now where, it's okay to make mistakes. They're going to be smaller mistakes, but they're going to learn from them. And that really has been the key for us, is letting them learn. I might be jumping back and forth here. I know one thing that my wife has done is she has been very active on the parent pages, the Facebook groups and other parent sites. That is, it's an ideal way to stay informed. Essentially, it helps you be a better parent by seeing how not to parent. I remember there was one conversation, one set of comments. A parent says that they're trying to get a hold of their kid who is still he's overslept. He's got an exam that day, and what should they do? And I think the majority of the comments were, "You do nothing. You let them handle it. That's why they're there. They're there to learn. They're there to deal with crises, even though some may be small, some may be bigger. These are important life lessons. Let them figure out. Don't be that helicopter parent. Don't feel like you have to manage every aspect of their life. If this is a foreign concept to you, like I said, this is not how we chose to parent. Doesn't make it right or wrong, but we've found that it's been very helpful, very successful in creating, allowing our kids to grow into the people that they are now and that they're to become in the future. Teach them how to change a tire. Something simple. I remember I was taught as a young kid. We have a neighbor who has a child went away to school and got a call one night because her tire blew and she was on the side of the road and didn't know what to do. So she called parents who drove a couple hours to go help. Wouldn't it have been nice for them to be able to figure it out on their own, whether it's changing it themselves or at least to be able to think through the issues? It's a process. I understand and I get that. But it's the little things. It's, you teach them how to change a tire. Sometime they get a flat or they're with somebody who's got a flat and they've got to change it. They do it. They know how to do it. And, it's those small successes, the little wins that really build confidence. And those are important. It's important to set them up to be able to have those. It's important to be able to let them have those. As hard as it may be, you've got to step back and let them enjoy this part of their lives. I mentioned this earlier. We taught our kids to question everything. You be respectful, but you can question. You can ask questions. You should be able to ask questions. You should be able to say, "Hey, how much was that?" Or why can't I have that? Why can't I do that? And we just like we're not this is how it was done when we were kids. This is how it's going to be done for you. We're not a because we said so kind of family. So we had our share of discussions with the kids, explaining to them why this, why that, and let them be a part of the solution. Let them understand it. Doing those little things really empowers them to grow up and be the independent people that you should want them to be. And the place to start is before you send them off to school. And finally, just teach them that the world does not revolve around them. That is such a hard concept to understand. The kids are designed. I think it's human nature to feel that way, but you got to teach your kids empathy. By teaching them that they are not the center of the universe. So it teaches them to think of others. It teaches them to do things with integrity. Teaches them to understand the importance of being responsible, and it's contagious. It rubs off on others, and we all want the same thing. We all want happy, healthy children who grow up to be successful, productive, giving people. So anyway, I know that last part was a bit out of the ordinary for a lawyer probably, but it was important to me as I was thinking through this topic many moons ago on major life events and thinking about sending your kids off to college. The obvious things came up, the documents and the lawyer kicked in. But then I thought, what? Well, the things that we taught, teach them these things. It's important. It's important to me. It's important to let people know because not everybody thinks this way. And I'm always telling myself that something may be relevant or not relevant because of how I perceive others going through life or understanding the world around them. And I find that more often than not, I just don't understand them. And I believe something to be true that isn't, or I perceive something to be that's not. So I figured I'd share this info with you. I had here, so silly things. Teach your kids the four main islands of Japan. I've probably known those: Hokkaido, Honshu, Shikoku, Kyushu. I've probably known those since I was age 4. The one little bit of useless knowledge that I think my mom taught us. She's 83, going on 83, and 82ish, and she still remembers them. So I don't know. It's a fun party trick. Probably useless. It's, I think, only come up a couple of times in my 54 years of life, but hey, what the heck. So anyway, here if you need, I hope to be doing more of these live videos. We'll get better as we go, and we'll hopefully continue to provide you with useful information. So anyway, have a great day, and we'll be back soon. Thanks.